And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. Rassie Erasmus has officially named his 23 to face the All Blacks this weekend, and it's a bit of an unexpected 23, really. The big news is no bomb squad, an orthodox 5-3 split for the Springboks, and a surprise inclusion for Ethan Hooker, who's I think played one game for the Boks so far this year, and he will get an opportunity at Eden Park. I mean, talk about big opportunities for a player who hasn't really featured so far. But it's an interesting side. Tried and tested is the theme. Lots of experience, lots of players who have been there, done that, and just two players who have actually played at Eden Park for the Springboks in the lineup in the forms of Siya Kolisi and Eben Etzebeth. Before we get into the side, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Let's have a look, shall we, at exactly what Rassie Erasmus has done over here. Right, there is your 23, and it's an interesting 23. I think a lot of us are probably expecting a bomb squad kind of vibe. I think it's interesting to see that Thomas Toy is starting. And I think it's interesting to see, obviously, the 8th man selection. So let's go through it, shall we? Oxenchair in the number 1 jersey. Malcolm Marx next to him. Thomas du Toit starts in the number 3. Volkolo being backed to do a job off the bench. What for me would have been interesting is had the All Blacks maybe shuffled their pack a little bit or their front rows a little bit, this might have changed. But big opportunity for Oxenchair to have a go at Fletcher Newell. Thomas du Toit up against Ethan de Groot's going to be a very good battle as well. In the second row, Eben Etzebeth next to Ruan Nokia. I mean, that is such a good reward of form for Ruan Nokia, who was one of the few players last year I think really took his opportunity and bashed the door down. He became undroppable, really, with the way he was playing last year, and even this year has just kept it up with stand-up performances. Maybe not the most physical of locks out there. He probably doesn't bring the same sort of physicality as maybe even a Tupou Vai, his opposite number for this weekend. But his work rate is absolutely immense. Very good line operator as well. And, set piece is going to be so important this weekend. And I think he'll play a big role of that. Whether we'll start seeing, your midfield lineouts and the likes of that, maybe, too soon to tell, but he's a big part of that and a very good skill set in terms of being able to play, in the loose and good hands and the likes of that. The loose trio, Malcolm starting the number 6 jersey, Peter du Toit back in the number 7 jersey, and Siya Kolisi starting at 8. No Jean-Luc Deprez, which was one of the more sort of accepted selections, really, when we did the live show yesterday. People were saying basically they're backing to see seeing Jean-Luc Deprez in the number 8 jersey and would really like to see him in the number 8 jersey, given the fact that he had to pull out late against the Wallabies, hasn't really played for the Boks, had a good performance against the Barbarians. But Siya Kolisi is fit and is being backed in the number 8 jersey. By the way, this will be his 95th cap as he ages ever closer to that big number 100, which Artie Savia, by the way, gets to this weekend. Big calls at 9 and 10, probably the sort of calls we were expecting, really. Grant Williams in the number 9 and 10 combination with Andre Pollard. So with Pollard's selection, Willie le Roux at 15 is essential, who I think actually has also played at Eden Park for the Boks. I think all 3 of them who featured there before. So Grant Williams, I think, was always going to be a pretty straightforward selection. I wonder if they might have been tempted, especially if they'd gone with a 6-2 split, to put Grant Williams on the bench and almost kind of use him as that impact. But I think at the moment, this is a team built to build an innings. And I think Grant Williams will partner with Andre Pollard in trying to put pressure on the All Blacks, put them on the back foot, and to try and sort of knock off a few points. Then when the opportunity is there, have a bit of a go. Kenny Moody does survive his performance against Australia and starts the number 11 jersey for the first time. Interesting to see it. He'll be on the left and Sheldon Colby will be on the right. What for me will be interesting to see is whether that decision was actually made after the All Blacks named their side, and if Stevie P, for example, was in the number 14 jersey, would that have potentially have changed their thinking as well? In the centres, Jesse Creel, Damien Daly extend their centre partnerships. I mean, there are experience between those two, 172 caps between those two. So that's the big thing. The theme of the backline is experience trumps everything. Willie le Roux in the number 15 jersey. That will spark a lot of debate. But I think, to be fair, I think a lot of people have been coming around to the fact that we want to have his level-headedness. We need to have his creativity as well, because he just brings so much to the team from creating chances, potentially creating tries, and the likes of that. So I think that that's quite an important selection, Willie le Roux in that number 15 jersey. And then off the bench, as I said, no 6-2 split. That's a surprise. I am surprised, to be perfectly honest. I thought that we would see a potential 6-2 split. People were talking about a 7-1 split even, but it's not. And I tell you what, not a lot of experience in this front row. Jan Wessels covering hooker in itself is an interesting selection. It's maybe the only selection I don't really agree with. I just want to see more of Marius van der Merwe. I really think that he can bring a lot to the table. Jan Wessels does bring a lot with regards to, a lot of physicality in that second half. Very good work rate, quick around the park. But I like the fact that Marius van der Merwe would have been a second fetcher in the second half, and I worry about our lineouts in the second half as well, with Jan Wessels maybe not as good of a line operator as I think Marius van der Merwe is. Bowen Venter, though, I mean, how's this? He wasn't even in the box mix 2 or 3 months ago. He wasn't even in lineman camps. He was basically nowhere, was Bowen Venter. He will now get opportunity to play against the All Blacks at Eden Park. And I think it's the inexperience of those two who have a combined A caps that necessitates Wilco Low coming in the second half and hopefully just trying to smash that scrum in the second half. Noah Diago also being used off the bench, I think, is a good move. The Arceus Snyman stocks have waned, haven't they? I mean, it's weird to have thought even a year ago that Arceus Snyman would not be involved against the All Blacks. I don't think he's played phenomenally well so far this year for the Boks. But it's interesting that we haven't seen him as much. Even Franco Moster missing out as well. We are seeing a couple of big names not involved. Quacker Smith will provide impact off the bench. That we pretty much knew was going to happen regardless of a 6-2-5-3 split. He's so important in the second half from a breakdown point of view, turnovers, competing over the ball. And hopefully after a really strong performance against the Wallabies, his confidence will be up and he'll be able to do a lot of damage. Then we've got Kobus Reinach in the number 21 jersey. A bit of experience there, partnering the other two backline players who have 12 caps between them. Sasha Feinberg Gomazulu back to the number 22 jersey. He can come on obviously at fullback, at 10, at 12. And I think his X factor will be a big part of in that second half. Wouldn't surprise me actually if he comes on 15 and tries to add something a bit different. If you want to keep Andre Pollard on for his goal kicking, the likes of that in the later stages. Ethan Hooker for me is a very surprising selection. I think we could have very easily gone with a 6-2 split, and you could have added an extra lock in the form of a Franco Moster, Narcus Neyman, gone with Kobus Reinach and gone with Sasha, and left out Ethan Hooker. So for me, I think that is Caden Moody insurance. To be honest, I think with the way that he played against the Wallabies and had a really tough game, they're backing him again. Could have got Makasoma Pimpi, maybe even the safer option, but they're backing Caden Moody. However, they have got an option where if he's not playing well, they can put an Ethan Hooker on who will be playing just a second game for the Boks. Big ask, very, very big ask. But again, I suppose, also a bit of an unknown, really, for the All Blacks. Big physical winger, a bit of a different mold to the other wingers who are, more fleet-footed, for example. I also think this is a team that is really set up to put the ball in the air and compete very well. Ches and Colby, Kane and Moody, they're going to have a lot of opportunity to compete. Eben Etzebeth will get involved in the up and unders as well. So that sort of very much dictates a potentially very kicking-orientated game plan as well. In terms of some stats, Springboks will go in search of their 5th victory in a row this weekend. Their longest winning streak against the All Blacks was 6 matches between 1937 and 1949. So if they were to win this game, they would be able to match that next week. The last time, however, we defeated the Eden Park was defeated All Blacks in the Eden Park was 1937. A long time ago. And we've got to try and break that kind of record, and the All Blacks themselves have not lost at Eden Park since 1994. So, yeah, I mean, that's how much of it is a Fortress Eden Park type of thing. In terms of your caps and the way it's sort of distributed, total test caps for the Springbok starting lineup is 939, which is the 4th highest combined in South African history. Total. So it is the 4th most experienced Springbok side of all time. And I think that's significant. That is very much, they're bringing players who have been there, who've done that, who are going to be able to cope with the pressure and hopefully be able to get a result. That's not an accident. That is very deliberate. And in terms of the average caps, there are 434 in the back line, 505 in the forwards, 206 on the bench. Your average player in the starting lineup has over 60 caps. That's an incredibly important stat. The average player on the bench has 20. The average caps on the bench is 26. So it's experience. At the end of the day, we're backing experience to get the victory. Is it the right decision? Well, we're going to ask you in the comments, and let's go take a look. Because yeah, people have been getting involved, and people are throwing out a lot of chats and a lot of reaction, and I'm very interested to sort of see what we're gonna put a poll up in regards to whether you're happy with the selection that Rassie Erasmus has thrown up. And what I always ask is, if you're not happy with the selection, if you don't like what he's done, why not? What are the changes you would make, and where don't you like it? So I'm going to put a poll in the comments and ask what or do you like the team Rassie has picked? A simple yes or no question, really. That's what I'm asking. And if you'd like to feature on the chat show itself, please do send a super chat so you can feature in Rassie's Coach's Corner. Come on, back yourself. Back yourself with some hot takes. Let's get some hot takes on the screen. Let's get some hot takes in the comments. Let's see what everybody has to say about the side. And yeah, put your name out there. Back yourself. Also, please do consider becoming a member. We've got so much that we want to bring you, and the super chats, your memberships, the likes of that really do help us give you guys the type of content that we want. And yeah, we really appreciate everybody that's in the super chat. Also, becomes a member. It's a big boost for us. So please do continue to support the channel, and shout out to everybody who does support the channel and keeps us ticking over. People, what are we saying? What are we thinking? Where are we at with all of this? I want to see what that poll's going to look like. But I think for me, some very interesting. It's definitely not the team we would have predicted. We wouldn't have thought that this was going to be a side that Russ was going to put out. I think, let's call a spade a spade. Nobody would have had this in their predicted side. And what's going to be quite fun as well, is once we have my picks working, which is our new platform that we're working on, we'll be able to see how many people did get this right and how close people were. And what we're working on is potentially a big cash prize for when we do the end of year tour, for example. Whoever's going to be the close, well, if you can predict the exact side. And I'll tell you what, I reckon we could go on for years and nobody would actually win that, because it's such a difficult a thing to try and predict, because Rassie is just so unpredictable. So we're gonna go through some of the comments and have a look at what everybody's saying and the likes of that. But yeah, get involved, people. Get involved. Lots of comments. Over 600 people watching. Please do smash like on the video. Let's get up to 100 likes, people. Let's get this going. Let's start operating here. Let's get the chat going as well. And going to go up to some of the chats over there. And Jonathan says, thank God Rassie has recognized that Ruan Nokia is the best 5 in the country. Kid Cynical saying he thought that one of Franco Mostert or an Arke Sneeman would be involved. Slick Vic saying Marnus came on in the 78th minute in the last game. Rassie doesn't rate him that much. I don't know why. I can't understand it, to be honest. Very, very strange from me. Shimo says this Blocker team looks weaker than previous. I'm sure now the All Blacks will win. Sorry, I don't look at that All Black side and go, look, that All Black side looks like it's incredibly one of their all-timers, to be fair. So, yeah, I don't think it's just as simple as that, personally. But what do I know? What do I know? Some of the other comments are... I've lost my comments now. Butler says, so basically we're going on the attack this Saturday. I'm actually happy with that. I'm only worried about the fact there was no MVW. I feel Marnus is a super player. Yeah, look, I think I'm surprised at... that they haven't gone Marnus. I think that he's so good over the ball. Look, maybe it's a case of he just hasn't played enough, but they haven't really looked to blood him, and they really do rate Jan-Hendrik Wessels. So it's a big call. It is a big call at the end of the day, and I'm not sure if I entirely back it. I mean, who am I to question, the great Rassie Erasmus? But I'm surprised by the selection. I still am very surprised by the selection, and I do think that Marnus van der Merwe would have added a lot. Give me 2 seconds. But yeah, I mean, 5-3. I think that's, for me, continuously... That, for me, continues to be quite a glaring decision by the Bok management. And I think, to be fair, we haven't really seen the bomb squad add the kind of impact we used to, and add the kind of impact that we needed in the last few games. So maybe there's not to say the bomb squad is over, but in the current genesis, maybe we're just in there going, well, you know what? Actually, right now, it's better for us to just get on the front foot early on, to build an innings, to keep it tight, to get a result. Because at the end of the day, this game is not about playing pretty rugby. This game is not about playing champagne rugby and entertaining the likes of that. This game has got one purpose, and that is to win. We need to win this weekend. That is the big goal. That's the only goal for this weekend. It's not about performances, and it's not about how many tries you're going to score in the likes of that. This weekend is about one thing, and that is winning. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see what sort of the second half situation is going to be with regards to the subs, for example, the way that we do change things up. And yeah, I think in general, I think what we're going to see is the pack's going to have to basically put them on the front foot. And then I think we're going to be playing a lot off of broken play. I think we're going to be doing a lot of box kicking, which, much to people's delight, is a very effective strategy at the end of the day. People might not like it, but it works. And we've got a team full of players who can compete in the air. And I think that's incredibly important. We've got a team that we can put the ball up and they can win that ball back. And on loose ball and on broken ball, I think you've got players who can make a difference. And this is, I think, going to be a big tactic, is trying to play off that sort of turnover ball as well. And, progressing up box kick by box kick, kicking towards the corners, trying to keep things tight, and really building that sort of innings as we go. Another comment says, from Trump Nick says, big call not going for the 6-2 split, even though I read Ethan Hooker would have preferred a Archia or Franco coming off the bench. And Renier Swart saying, I suspect that we'll start playing Tony Ball to lead and get scoreboard pressure. They will then change to traditional box DNA to squeeze them out. Well, I think the big thing is, you want to play sort of Tony Ball, it's going to be a big feature. It's going to be Willie Leroux, who's going to have to really step it up in the number 15 jersey when he switches into first receiver. I think that's going to be a big part of it, is that he's got the ability to open up defenses. He's got the opportunity to put players in space, to release a Cheslin Colby, for example, to get Canon Moody into space. So he's going to be a huge part of the attacking game we're going to try and play, because Andre Pollard's not that type of player. He's not a Mali Liebach who's going to throw, a 20-30 meter pass over the top on the run and get wingers on the front foot. Andre Pollard is going to be able to put the ball in the air, for example, and then if we win it back, and as the All Blacks retreat, you can then go Willie Leroux, who'll slip into that first receiver and find that last pass, find that gap, for example, maybe putting that chip in behind. So that's where our creativity is going to come in at the end of the day, is with a Willie Leroux versus a Mali Liebach, who you take that kind of responsibility on traditionally if he was starting, and the likes of that. So we've obviously got the press conference happening at the moment, so we'll sort of hear from Rassie Erasmus a bit more in a bit. And so yeah, we'll wait and find out exactly what his chat is in terms of why he selected. And that's going to be very interesting to see what his reasoning is not to use the 6-2 split, not to go with the Marnus van der Merwe, for example. Even with this 5-3 split, could very easily have had Upland Fassi ahead of Ethan Hooker. He could play on the wing, could play at fullback. He could have had Damien Willemse as well on that bench. So even the 5-3 split that we've gone with is an interesting 5-3 split, and not necessarily. It's not necessarily our strongest 5-3 split we could have gone with, I think. But it's ballsy at the end of the day. It's not the team we would have selected, and 64% of the people, only 64% of the people are actually happy with the side of 301 votes. So please do go and vote on that if you guys are in the chat, because I'm very interested to sort of see what the general feeling is. But a lot of people are not happy with the side, and I think that's going to be the case. Oh, by the way, so we had JC Creel as captain, and somebody was asking about that, but he actually has been confirmed as captain. That's bizarre. Actually, didn't even notice that. So very interestingly, so because he's been named as captain, basically, he will captain the side on Saturday. That's a very interesting call. A very, very interesting call that in itself. So we'll update that in a bit, actually, because that's and apparently that's just within the team thing. So it sounds like the Seek Lease has actually been a late addition to the side itself. So I think it's going to be interesting to see in that. And yeah, so the chat is at that stage. Jesse had already been told he was captain. So and they kept it with that. So Jean-Luc Dupre, by the way, has picked up a niggle at training this week. I mean, at this stage, is he ever going to play a game? You know, these are the questions. Is Jean-Luc Dupre ever going to play a game? Because Syracuse apparently had to come in the number 8 jersey. I don't know. Is that maybe just chat about maybe a response? I mean, I'll be surprised if Syracuse. I mean, the fact that he was fit to come in but wasn't going to play for me is a weird one in itself. Let's do some of the other comments though. So Dix Forster said, to all the naysayers, have a bit of faith. Rassie said he was going to play informed players. They are highly motivated to play the coach's preferred game. Back them fully. Well, the thing is, yeah, I mean, you gotta back the calls, don't you? At this stage, they've been made. At the end of the day, what do we know? What goes on behind the scenes? But it is some very big decisions. You know, Wesley also saying 5-3 versus Wallabies at Ellis Park against strongest All Blacks team selection. Yeah, it was an interesting. I still think that's the biggest call here, is not going with the 6-2 split, the bomb squad, and the likes of that. If we look at the weather, for example, and what we expect to see from the weather, it's going to be relatively cool, a high of 10. Looks like it's going to be pretty potentially quite rainy as well and wet, which is suits us really with the team we played. I think that's obviously been selected with that kind of thinking as well. The fact that it is potentially going to be wetty, is going to be a bit of a tight contest, which I think will play into our hands more than the All Blacks so far. The Mother's Recipe says, should have played 7-1-6-2. West Tony Ball don't work on a flat, rainy day in New Zealand. Should have stuck on the old box, 2019 box. And yeah, well, there we go. People, who's backing themselves to put in a hot take here, people? Waiting for our first hot take of the day, which will feature in the coach's corner over there. So if you want to put in a hot take over there, send a super chat. It'll feature over there, and we can really break it down and have a look at exactly what your chat is. So if you're backing yourself with a hot take, go and get that. As I said, please do consider becoming a member. It's actually a very cool little thing that comes on the screen if you become a member. So if anyone who wants to become a member, you can see exactly how that works. Waiting to see get a bit of information coming out of the presser, which is going to be interesting, I think, and I'm going to be interested to see what the questions are going to be posed to us here. Obviously, I'll only get to see it after we finish up here. So he's got lots to account for, I think, is what a lot of people say. As I said, only 63% of the people are happy with the side he has selected. That's one of the lowest things we've ever had. So in terms of why he's picked the side, let's go some of the chat. So he said as follows. He said, we selected the best possible team we could for the match, knowing that this is going to be an epic encounter against the All Blacks at Eden Park, and many of these players have done the job for us before against them. He said this is obviously going to be a completely different challenge to what we faced against them in the last 2 years, with the match being hosted in New Zealand and also at a venue where they hold a fantastic record. That said, we've been working hard on the detail we wanted to iron out following the matches against the Wallabies since arriving in Auckland. So it's now up to us to implement our plans and deliver a performance that we can be proud of. He said the history and rivalry between the two sides speak for itself, and with all the permutations to attach to this match, it makes it particularly noteworthy. So we are expecting it to be a proper grind. There are records on the line for both teams, and there's no doubt that this game will be important in trying to win the competition, especially given how close the standings are at this stage. It's definitely going to be a special match, and both teams will give everything they have out there. And then, yeah, expanding on the captaincy thing, he said it'll also be a big occasion for him to captain the team against the All Blacks for the first time with regards to Jesse Creel. So we are proud of Jesse, and we know he'll carry the responsibility with great pride. I mean, it's such a cool call, actually, that captaincy call. Because basically, Siya Kolisi was not going to play. Supposedly, it was supposed to be Jean-Luc Deprez. He picked up a niggle in training. They've had to tweak the side. They've brought in Siya Kolisi, but they announced internally that Jesse Creel would captain the side. And as a result, they're saying that they're not going to go back and say you're not captain. And the funny thing is, if you know Jesse Creel, if you ever met Jesse Creel, and even if you've just seen his interviews, Jesse Creel will be the type of person that would be, well, obviously Sia's going to captain. He's our captain, and he's not back in the lineup, so he's captain. But there's such a trust in this coaching staff and this entire environment and this backing that they said, well, no, we're not going to go back on it. We're not going to suddenly remove the captaincy from Jesse and give it to Siya, which they could have, by the way, because they hadn't announced it. This has only been announced internally. They could have very easily said Sia's back and Sia's captain, but they said, no, we've named Jesse Creel as captain. Jesse, you're going to captain on the weekend. Siya, your job is to do what Jean-Luc Deprez was going to do. Obviously, Siya will have a big role in terms of chatting in the change rooms and on the field as well. But Jesse Creel will deal with the referee, for example, and the buck will stop with him. He'll face the media duties and he'll lead the team out. And I think that in itself is such a big backing to say, arguably the greatest Springbok, one of the greatest captains of all time in the starting lineup, but we're still going to give you the opportunity. We're still going to back you. We're going to back you as captain. And Jesse Creel being a guy who leads from the front, I think this will bring the best out of him. I really do. And I think that Siya Kolisi must just focus this weekend on running over players. I want to see a huge game from Siya Kolisi. I think, if we can get him going, we can get him in the channels, we can get him in space, he can cause a lot of damage out there. And that, for me, is a very exciting prospect. Also, obviously, big news, for example, we've got Peter Step the Toy back in it. I think Mark Verstappen had a much better game at Ellis Park, so I think that he's someone who is starting to really find his form. And I think that he was a player, I kept saying, during the earlier games this year, that needed to start showing us something. That needed to start giving back to the backing that he had received. And he started to show a bit during the Wallabies. I thought he had a very good first half, maybe not the best second half. So again, he gets back this weekend and he needs to do a job. He's got to operate. He's got to find a bit of some breakdown success. He's got to make sure he's adding physicality. And yeah, we need to see the best version of him, because our back row needs to go toe to toe, and for me, try and outplay the All Blacks back row, which is a good All Blacks back row, by the way. We'll put up the team in a bit and look at exactly where the two teams might sort of find parity, or maybe even do a bit of a combined team and kind of see what's cooking there. But it is a call in terms of having Marcus Darden there, which he's had that experience for most of the year so far. And I think that he needs to put in a big performance, because there's some very good back rows in that All Blacks side. Some of the other comments over here, Stacey says, let's be honest, I think All Blacks will have this one, but that doesn't matter. We're building depth, and the newbies need game time against the best teams in the world. Well, yeah, not really, because there's not a lot of newbies in the side. You got 2-3 really in the forms of maybe 4 with Sasha. You got Sasha, Jan Hendrik, Bone, and Ethan Hooker. Everybody else is very experienced. There's over 60 caps per person in the starting lineup. That's how experienced it is. Kenny Moody, I think, is the only player there who would have had less than 20 odd caps. Thomas Totoy has got 26. After that, the next lowest is, Ruan Okea's got 9. There we go. So Ruan Okea's got 9. He has got the fewest in the starting lineup. Then you've got Grant Williams got 21 plus. You've got Kane Moody, who's got 16. So Kane Moody and Ruan Okea are the only 2 players starting lineup that have less than 20 caps. But there's also only about 5 or 6 players who've got less than 50 caps. That's how experienced their starting 15 is. So this is not a depth building side. This is a side to go and beat the All Blacks at Eden Park. That's the chat. That is the plan. That is the ambition. And there's no other way to put it around it. That has to be the objective this weekend. It's not about playing like champagne rugby. It's not about saying, cool, we're giving people chances, we're trying to build something here. We want to win on Saturday. That's the only thing we care about, is we want to win. And if you don't agree with that, well, then I don't know if you're a Bok fan, because I don't care how we play on Saturday. Win is the most important thing. If we play terrible rugby, win by 2 points, gold star. absolute gold star. It's results based now. Against smaller teams like an Italy, a Georgia, when we go play Wales at the end of the year, we can be performance based. These kind of games are results based because results and performances obviously are interlinked, but it's about making sure that the team has the ability to win ugly and that it's the ability to beat teams at the end of the day. You don't win World Cups by playing pretty rugby. You win World Cups by winning matches. And this is what we now on the test. We're going to the cauldron. You're going into a place where you haven't won in 80 years. And if you go and beat them, that's a big statement. This is potentially the biggest win that the Boks could have since that World Cup final. Probably is actually the biggest win we'll have since the World Cup final. Because if you go and beat the All Blacks at Eden Park, you have very, very much declared that you are still the world number ones and will get the world number one ranking back as far as I understand, given the fact that we're playing away in the likes of that. So it's a big opportunity, and we've picked a team that has the experience to measure up toe to toe and understand when the things go badly or things might not be going as well as we'd like, how to react, how to respond, and how to adjust at the end of the day as well. And just trying to find out what's going on in the press conference itself and see if there's any bit of insight as to what Rassie's actually said about all of this. Because I'm very interested to see what some of the chat is and maybe what more he's actually said about this itself. But let's have a look at the New Zealand team in a little bit. As I said, people still out there. Rassie's Coach's Corner. Send a super chat. Get featured over there. Become a member. Get your name on the Bok jersey on the back. That's the pop-up that goes over there. And I just want to see if I've got the All Black side here. I do seem to have it as well. So let's have a look at this All Black side, shall we? So this is the All Black side that has been named. Now, as I said, a lot of people aren't happy with the Bok team. I don't look at this All Black team and going, oh my goodness, this is an absolute all-timer. We have absolutely got no chance whatsoever. This All Black side is good, but it's a beatable All Black side. I still think there's so many question marks over, do they know what their best back row split is? Do they know what their best centre pairing is? Do they know what their best back three is? Because they've swapped a few things, I mean, Fabian Holland's been playing a lot off the starting lineup. All of a sudden, he drops to the bench. Tupa Vai goes to 5. Simon Parker gets an opportunity, just his second test, for example. Wallace Atiti comes in the number 8 jersey. You've got Billy Proctor, who starts to get outside centre. He's still quite new in that role. You've got Emoni Narawa in the number 14 jersey. They've dropped Stevie P out of the 23. You've got Quinton Tupai on the bench, for example. A bit of a different player coming on at centre. Carl Preston's on debut. You've got a Finley Christie who's starting because they've got a bit of a scrum half crisis. No Cam Roygaard, no Cortez Ratzimer, no Noah Hotham, which is why Carl Preston comes in. There's no Patrick Tupolotto, for example, as well. Tavat Havanawe is also injured as well, so he was somebody that lots of people are speaking about could be a bit of an unknown and could be a big player for the All Blacks. So if you look at the side, let's go look toe-to-toe. Ethan de Groot, Oxenchair. I mean, if you had to do a combined team, Oxenchair for me ahead. Malcolm Marks probably ahead of Cody Taylor. Thomas Toy, Fletcher Newell. Probably put Thomas Toy, to be honest. Maybe he hasn't been as good for the Boks, but he's back and playing tighter, which I think is a stronger role. And he was, one of the Premiership's top players. You look at Scott Barrett, Evan Etzebeth. On current form, maybe a Scott Barrett, although I don't think he's been phenomenal. But Evan Etzebeth, obviously 100 tests, not much in it there. Tupa Vai versus Ruan Okia. Tupa Vai probably edges it up, but Ruan Okia is an exciting young player. Simon Parker versus Marco van Staden. Well, it's actually really Simon Parker versus Peter Steph the Toy. I'm going Peter Steph the Toy. Artie Salvia versus Marco van Staden. You go with more an Artie Salvia. Wallace TT versus Siak Lisi in the 8-man jersey. A bit of a coin toss. Grant Williams versus Finley Christie. I'm back at Grant Williams. Burden Barrett versus Andre Pollard, probably up in the air. Andre Pollard, very different types of players. In a World Cup final situation, you probably want Andre Pollard. Burden Barrett's played over 100 tests. Rico Awani versus Kane Moody, you go probably Rico Awani. Geordie Barrett versus Damien Dealendi, I would go Damien Dealendi. Billy Proctor, Jesse Creel, I'd go Jesse Creel. Chisholm Colby, Narawa, I'd go Colby. Jordan against Billy LaRue, you probably go Will Jordan. So I do think in terms of a combined 15, we'd probably edge out, actually. 1 through 15. I mean, as I said, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 4, 5 in the pack ahead. So I'll probably go with 5. And in the back line, I think the only player who is an easy decision ahead, or there's 2 players, are Rico Wani and Will Jordan. And the rest for me would probably be the box. So we're probably sitting at sort of 10-5. Really, from a maybe a 9-6 from a combined side point of view. But I do think that toe to toe, it is a stronger box side. The question will be form and who pitches up on the day as well. Because, as I said, I think, you look at the bench of the All Blacks versus the bench for the box. The All Blacks have got a bit of experience in that front row in Takawao and Tara Lomax. Tamati Williams not very experienced. We've got very inexperienced front row. But we can bring on somebody like Kobus Reinach, who's got 41 tests. Kwaka Smith's got 55 tests, for example. Lua Diago's got 60-odd tests. Whereas you look at a Fabian Holland, Du Plessis Carriffy, and Kyle Preston, they've got 9 tests between the 3 of them. Quinton Tapai's got 17 tests. So there's not a massive amount of experience coming off the bench for the All Blacks. And I think that if it starts to get close, we've probably got a bench where we can tweak it to suit the game. If we're chasing a game, you can bring on a Sasha for a Andre, change the game up. If it's getting a bit close, you can bring Sasha on for a Willie Leroux and keep Andre Pollard on for that goal kicking. You can bring a Sasha on, move Andre Pollard to 12, for example. Still have Willie Leroux as a second playmaker. Still have Andre Pollard for his goal kicking prowess. So I think we're a bit more adaptable, really, to the conditions and where we want to play. The big question a lot of people are asking is how are we going to play? A lot of people speaking about the fact that this has been set up for a Tony Ball type of game plan. Is that going to be the case? And I can't tell you the answer. We've got no idea what they're cooking, because this could be a third in the bombs and see what happens. But in terms of the Rassie Erasmus press conference, he said that he chose Willie over Fussy because of Moody, who didn't have the best game last time. So that in itself is quite frustrating, in the fact that we've almost had to not compensate. That's why I'm surprised we didn't go with Maxwell Mapimpi, because I think you could have gone with Mapimpi in the 11 jersey. You could have picked a Fussy at fullback if you wanted. But actually, to be fair, I think that you always have to go with Willie Leroux if you're starting with Andre Pollard, in terms of that combination and the way they play it together. So I think that in itself is quite a straightforward selection. Actually, I don't think it's that complicated. I think Willie Leroux is always going to start if you've got a Andre Pollard. People are going to wrap it up there for the day. Thank you very much for joining me. As I said, we'll sort of pick apart this a bit more, and we'll give you more information. The press conference will be up within the next hour, so keep an eye out for that. And please do smash like on the way out. Please do subscribe to the channel as well, and we'll see you guys all next time.